So, what is your name?
My name is Ryan Lehman.
And where are you from in the United States?
I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana.
And where did you go to undergrad?
Went to undergrad at the University of Southern Mississippi, which is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
And how did you decide to go to grad school after undergrad?
So in my chosen degree for undergrad, so marine biology was what I majored in, you have to take field courses at the research lab down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And one of my professors there, I was taking elastomer physiology, and Dr. Beth Jones was teaching it. And she, in a meeting one day about some classwork, we talked about like what future plans were. You know, she asked me what I saw myself doing when I got out of here, and I said that really I didn't have much plans afterwards. When I was growing up, worked on a lot of stuff, cars, houses, things like that. So I figured I would just go back to my hometown and open up a garage or something like that. You know, just get the bachelor's degree like everybody says you have to, and then go my own way. And she said, well, that's good and fine, but I think you should really consider grad school. You know, if you perform in grad school like you've been doing in my class, I think you'd be a really good fit for it. And you know, I think you should really go for it. So she was really the first person that ever told me that I might be a good fit for grad school. It wasn't something that I had investigated on my own. So I looked into the process, decided to give it a go and sent in some applications, and now I'm here.
How did you find your professor, Dr. Nicole Phillips?
So when I was a senior at USM, or maybe a junior, I was taking marine biology, and so it would have been a spring semester. I would have been the spring of my junior year. And we had, as part of an assignment, we had to go visit 1 to 2 of the seminar series. So each semester they have visiting professors or policymakers or government officials come. They give seminars about whatever their research topics are. And we had to go to 1 or 2 of those, write a summary on it, and submit it as part of the coursework in marine biology. And so I ended up actually going to an interview seminar for my PI, Nicole. She talked about her research with genetics and how she had worked on sawfishes and dolphins before. And at the time, I didn't think too much of it. This was before I had the conversation about grad school with Dr. Jones down on the coast. And so submitted that coursework, went on. When I started looking into grad school, I found out that Nicole had been hired. She had started a lab, and she was looking for graduate students. So I sent her a really long email that did not flow, and I got a response back. We met and talked kind of about what my research interests might be, what her lab was planning on researching, and she actually sent me home with homework. So she gave me like 6 or 7 papers to read, and she said, read these, come back in a couple of weeks and tell me which ones you liked and why you liked them. And we had papers in the stack. There were regular PopGen, there was ecology, and there was one paper in there on environmental DNA, which is what I work on now. And I liked that paper the most. I felt like it was kind of like CSI, but for sharks and rays, getting DNA out of water samples. And so when I went and met with her a second time, I told her as much, and she said okay, and that was pretty much the last we heard of it. Ended up getting into the lab. A couple semesters later, found out that she was looking for someone that had a genuine interest in environmental DNA because she had a project lined up, and she wanted somebody that wanted to do it rather than just somebody that would do it. So pretty glad I picked that paper, knowing what I know now, but that's how we met.
Had you heard of sawfish before your project?
Actually, I had not. So I had no idea what sawfish were. I had no idea what environmental DNA was. I had a basic understanding, if that, of genetics and molecular biology, and now those are what I do. So,
Tell us the story about the first time you saw a sawfish in the wild.
So, as part of my master's degree, one of my committee members, Greg Palakis, he works for FWC down in the current core range for sawfish, so southwest Florida. And we, as part of a Save Our Seas funded project, went out and collected water samples targeting sawfish in the Indian River Lagoon, Tampa Bay, and some other areas of the United States. And so when I went down there for field sampling in 2019 in the summer, we had a little bit of time beforehand. So I came early down to Southwest Florida, and we went out with part of the FWC crew, and we went and fished for sawfish. We ended up tracking a sawfish that had already been radio tagged down there. It was a little juvenile, and actually was hanging out with another sawfish that had not been tagged yet. So got 2 sawfish that day, and got to work them up, take all of the morphometric measurements and things like that, and it was a really good day.
Cool. And what were your thoughts the first time you saw a sawfish?
I grinned like an idiot for the rest of the day, up until the point where I went to bed. It was an incredible experience to be able to hold my study species. You know, the point of the project is to be able to detect these species without ever needing to see them. So you go into the project with the understanding that you may not ever see your target species, your study species, but the fact that I was able to interact with them in nursery habitat, hold one of the most incredible experiences of my life.
Did you ever consider yourself super smart growing up, like as a kid?
Absolutely not. I liked to read, but I did not like to read scientific things. I liked to read like science fiction novels and stuff like that. I passed my courses, you know, up till now, but I wasn't a straight A student. I was never valedictorian or anything like that. I was just a middle of the road student in primary, middle school, high school, and undergrad.
And what advice would you give, let's say, your 10-year-old self about working in the science field?
Well, I think this probably applies to most age groups besides 10 years old, but I would probably try to get myself more accustomed to being okay with failure. That wasn't something that I was ever comfortable with growing up. Everybody likes to win, you know, but one whole half of the scientific method is no. And that's still a valid answer, and you have to be okay with no's. You have to be okay with failing the first time you do something because you're still learning. Even if you get all yeses and everything works out for you, you know, that's great. That's what you went in there for, but a no can be just as important, and failure can be just as important to creating a well-rounded, persistent scientist.